welcome everyone to another episode of the Mindset X Factor podcast. I'm Raynor, grateful to be here again with you today, and again with our guest, Stefan Lessing, who was here with us last time. This is the second part of our discussion with Stefan. In part one was a really, really interesting discussion. And Stefan, I really enjoyed it because you were so open and honest and vulnerable, which isn't always easy for us to do in sharing your story and the hardships that you've had to overcome. This is now part two of that. If you haven't listened to part one, I'd like to encourage you to please go take a listen to that. But Stefan, maybe just for the benefit of us joining now for part two of the discussion, could you give us just a little recap of what we discussed last time?
Hi, Raynor. Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be back and to share just from my life some of my learnings and experiences. And doesn't matter what happens to us, be it one big tragedy or a sequence of bad things that bring us into a really bad spot and place. We spoke about the importance of paying attention to what our convictions are, our convictions of God, our convictions of life, but of myself, how I see myself, my convictions of people, because all of that influences my interpretation of what's happening to me. And that is either helping me or not helping me cope with that. So it's very important that we pay attention to those convictions and the interpretation of what happens to us, and test those references with people that might have different opinions, because that might be part of the help I need to get out of it. And then we spoke about the very important importance of accepting what happened, not why it happened, but that I can't undo it. That I need to get to a place where I say it happened, and doesn't matter why. That is the first step to recovery. And then secondly, that takes us to the right question, where the wrong question is why, the right question is what now. And the what now is the parachute moment where I shift my focus away from where I'm not supposed to be going, and I focus my attention on what I need to, where I need to go, and what I need to do to get out of this place where I don't want to be. So that was the very important things, because that impacts my focus, but it also impacts my ability to deal with the realities that I'm focused on. I think that would be a brief summary of the lessons I shared with you from the tragedies that I've experienced.
Cool. Thanks, Stefan. And so today, what we're going to be really focusing on is essentially, now that you've discussed what you went through and that you were able to come out on the other side and to work through that, I think today's discussion, we're really going to focus on how you were able to do that. What were the practical things that you did on a day to day? Because obviously it didn't happen overnight. I think that's a fair assumption to make. And I know from reading your book, that's I can make that assumption because I know what it was like for you as you shared that with us. But I think let's focus on that, and you can share with all of us that are listening what you have to do, what it was like, what did you experience to sort of go through that process and that journey of finding the light again, finding that hope again, and being able to basically live your life again. Because until you get to that point, it's hard to live your life again, right?
Absolutely. So I'll share more after the death of my son, which followed about 3 years after my divorce. But having sort of retract the process that I went through in recovering from my divorce, the same things happened. And the first thing that I noticed was my own language. When I dealt with people shortly after the death of my son, I mean, obviously, it wasn't "How are you?" "I'm well, thank you. It's going great." My standard response was, "It's difficult. I'm struggling." it's difficult, I'm struggling, which I was really struggling. I couldn't see myself out of that situation. I couldn't imagine myself ever feeling different. And the things people said, as I said last time, didn't always help, because it came from their own convictions, and trying to give me advice in that situation, I didn't find helpful. One person that
Sorry
I,
to
yes,
Sorry to interrupt you, Stefan, because it's interesting that that was your response. It's difficult. I'm struggling, because I don't think that's the usual response from everyone. If when they're going through a hard time, we'd like to put this mask on and say, I'm fine,
pretend, yeah.
everything's okay, and pretend. Do you think that you being able to, because it's almost like accepting where you are, isn't it? Like you sort of realizing
Absolutely.
that you're not okay, and you sharing that with others. Do you think that helped in your process?
Yeah, and let's just quickly qualify. I mean, it's one thing if a stranger asks you how you are, and then it's easy to put up that that front. I'm okay, or I'm good, or well, thank you. Using the words that people normally would use. What I found extremely difficult was almost lying to the people that were close to you, and even people at work in my team. We had this great relationship, and them being aware of what happened to me. So accepting is the fact that I am in a bad place. It's not going well with me. So you're absolutely right. And I think, in essence, I am a very honest person. I'm very transparent. It's difficult for me to hide my true feelings most of the time. So I found with the people that I trusted and the people that were close to me, that was my standard response. For the rest, I mean, it was like, "Fine, how are you?" Which has no real meaning.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah,
absolutely right. Accepting what happened to you is also accepting the impact it has on your life, which is a very valid point you're making. Yeah. So,
excellent.
so one of the people that was very close to me was somebody that I considered one of my mentors, who he has passed on a couple of years ago already. But he phoned me, and he checked in with me regularly, and he phoned me one day, and he said to me, how are you? And I mean, which I found a silly question, because I mean, he knew I wasn't well, but he still asked the question, "How are you?" And
Yeah,
I gave him my standard response: "It's difficult. I'm struggling." And he paused for a moment, and then he said to me, "I can't imagine how you must feel and what you must be going through, because I've never been there. But fake it till you make it." And I was like taken aback, and I was almost like, I felt a little bit, I don't know what the word is. He was insensitive, I felt. And then he said to me, "You know what? The next person that asks you how you are, you don't have to believe this. Just say the next words. Every moment stronger, every day better." That was his advice. Every moment stronger, every day better. And it just fell into my heart, and then I just realized that's what I need to say, because I'm not lying. It's not lying, but it's also speaking life into my situation.
yeah,
So I immediately took that to heart, and I really started doing it. When somebody asked me how you are, I said, "Every moment stronger, every day better. Every moment stronger, every day better." And because I had people around me that cared about me, people asked me regularly, "How are you?" And I kept on saying, "Every moment stronger, every day better." And I can honestly say, from that moment, I got stronger. And from that day, it got better. And the big lesson that I've learned is the power of our words. The power of our words. We don't realize how often we speak death, we speak lack, we speak, a lot of things that are not helping us at all. And we don't have to lie when we do affirmations. We choose an affirmation that acknowledges where we are, but is taking us forward into a better place. And I started saying, "Every moment stronger, every day better." And from that moment, I got stronger. And from that day, it went better. And then to build on the parachute chute concept and the principle is the fact that even if it goes against your convictions, you have to have the courage to risk going where you might get hurt again. Let me explain. I mean, if we have worked through a huge financial loss, and people actually stole from us, I mean, trusting people with money comes difficult. If somebody has hurt you in a very bad way through a divorce, or through being unfaithful, like I experienced myself, or you realize that somebody that you considered a best friend is actually sort of um, back mouthing you without you realizing, or not pretending to be somebody who they not are. Trusting people again is your challenge. But
Yeah.
if we don't risk losing again, if we don't risk getting hurt again, we don't give ourselves the chance of experiencing trust and love and a successful financial um, project ever in our lives. So it's going to take courage to risk again. And the important thing for me is, when I had to think about my two daughters, my love for nature, my love for the mountains, suddenly I felt I'll never take them there again. How can I take them there again? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very real risk involved. The first time I went up a mountain with friends, I felt like lying face down. That's how afraid I was. Never, not even thinking about my children. And then I realized that there's a risk in life, there's a risk in living. But I can either choose to just exist, but if I want to fully be alive again, at some stage I'm going to have to risk going there again and taking my kids there, and take the lessons that I've learned from the process with me. How would I go there differently? What would I do differently? But not staying in the safe place the whole time.
Yeah.
Some people find it
There's
safe to, yeah, yes,
what she's telling me, it's reminding me of a quote, and I might be butchering it terribly, but I can paraphrase it a bit. It's by Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, there comes a point in our lives where we have to stop and look fear in the face.
yeah,
We must do the thing we think we cannot do. And that's
absolutely,
essentially what she's saying, is because of the trauma and everything that happened in that situation, like with your son now, because it happened in the mountains and in nature, and that now you're faced with that trauma again, that fear, understandably so, of course,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
understandable. But the only way to overcome that is to actually face it. You can't avoid it forever and ever, because it will chase you no matter where you go, and you might create this and sort of attach this trauma onto other situations in your life that have
absolutely,
nothing to do with the mountains or nature or anything else.
absolutely,
And so it's always going to carry you're going to carry that load with you wherever you go.
yeah,
So the only way to get
mm,
over it is to face it and to do it. And that's not an
absolutely.
easy thing to do. It takes courage, it takes risk, all these sort of
It
things.
takes time.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
that, and there might be a great sacrifice that you have to make in order to do that. But
yeah,
also with that comes, I think it's also important for us to remember, comes with great risk comes great reward, as the saying goes, and it really does, because I'm sure, as you can attest, you've felt that reward in your life, by being able to face that fear. I'm sure. And so
yeah,
it just
absolutely,
reminded me of that. So I think it's
absolutely,
eternal principle that.
absolutely. So your loss, or your trauma, or your bad things could be in different things, but the principle remain. That will be your fear. That you would need to face, and the courage to face it and to risk again in that specific area is giving you the opportunity to experience something rewarding and positive in that specific light. So the other big lesson was the whole role of forgiveness. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves, sometimes we need to forgive somebody else. But the fact of the matter, if we live in bitterness, and we hang on to those bitterness that is linked to um, the pain that we've experienced, be it divorce, or be a death or whatever. In my case, the first person I had to learn to forgive was myself. And I like talking about learn to forgive, practice to forgive, because forgiveness is not just a decision in a moment. Forgiveness is a process, but it's a process of setting yourself free. Somebody once says that to live with bitterness is like eating rat poison and expecting the rat to die. So bitterness is actually poisoning ourselves, and I had to learn to let go. In my divorce, I had to learn to forgive my ex. With Waldo's dead, I had to learn to forgive a good friend. But the process of forgiveness is, every time the bitterness comes up inside of you, is to just speak freedom, letting go again, say, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. There's a piece of scripture that talks about how many times we need to forgive, and the word was 70 times 7, which is a large number. And I always thought it meant, for the same person hurting you again and again. But I've learned that that's the process of forgiving. Sometimes for one incident, 70 times 7, we need to forgive again before the release comes. And we only know the release came the moment that lightness and the bitterness is gone, when you think about that situation that you will never forget. That's, I think, what's meant by, forgive and forget, is you forget the hurt and the bitterness that is connected to that. So that was the other big thing. So the lessons I've learned is actually, I remember shortly after my divorce in 2000, not my divorce yet, just after moving out of the house, I got a call. I was in Joburg for business, and I got a call from my son's teacher requesting that we come and see her. My spouse at the time couldn't go with me, so I went and I saw this teacher alone, and she told me she had the kids on the carpet and asking them about their holidays, and everybody had a story to tell. But when she got to Waldo, my son, his one-liner was, my mom and my dad is getting divorced. And she said she was so shocked by that one-liner that she felt she just had to speak to us. And she said to me, you guys are both hurting, you're upset with each other, and in this process, you just remember that your children cannot be the collateral damage. They can't pay the price for this. So please think about your children as you work through these things. And it helped me a lot in the decisions I made during our divorce. And then 3 years later, our children were put in another school. But at the funeral of Waldo's, after Waldo's death, that same teacher entered the church from the back, and she just waved at me, and she said, I'm praying for you guys. And I don't know how long after that I went hunting for sweet nachis. It's a fruit in South Africa. We call it nachi. It's a, what do you call it in sorry?
A tangerine, I think, is the more
Tangerine.
usual.
I think that's the word that everybody will understand. And I walked into this fruit and veg store, and I bumped into this teacher, and we got talking for the first time in many years. And she shared with me that when she had me in a classroom, she was working through her own divorce. And that was significant for me, because having somebody going through the same thing, giving me advice. But then I said to her, but we should go for coffee. And she gave me a number, and I then tried to get hold of her to schedule a coffee. And a couple of times she said no, and a couple of times I couldn't get her in. I couldn't get in touch with her. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try one more time, and if it doesn't work, then I'm going to walk away. And then she said yes, and we went for our first coffee. And let's fast forward 3 months, we got married. Now, I always joke.
Colleagues looking for sweet tangerines, and you came away with your sweetheart.
something like that. But I always say to people, don't try this at home. If any of my children, if any of my children come to me and said, we know each other for 3 months, we want to get married, I'll lock them up. But I must admit, in hindsight, it was the best decision I made in my life when we got married. that was my second chance. I mean, 3 years after my divorce, plus 3.5 years, we got married, and only after our marriage we actually got to talk about some of the detail. And then I learned that she was only married 3 years. They never had children. They couldn't get married. I learned that, her dreams were only to be married, happily married, and be a mom. That could never happen for her. And she asked me about having children. Me already having two daughters, it became part of our family, her family, so to speak. And I said to her, there's an easy and a difficult answer. I would love to have more children with you, but 5 years ago I had a vasectomy, so practically it's not possible. But we did our homework, and we visited the urologist, and the diagnosis wasn't a good message for us. The chances were slim. A very expensive, complicated operation, which we decided to do from our savings. And then 6 weeks later, the test results confirmed that it's probably not on the cards for us, because I've been sterile for so long. And then we had to sit down and talk, and we decided to just have faith and to enjoy each other. And a year later, she ran into a wall, because she got reminded every single month that it didn't happen, which for me it was a lot easier. And I think it was 2 months later, or a few weeks later, I got home, and there was two little red baby boots on the bed, and she had a positive test. And she had a very long-standing gynecologist whom she had a very strong trust relationship with. He asked us to come in when the test results came through that it was 4 weeks. And he explained to us that it could be a false pregnancy, that he had to see a little dot in a specific place to confirm that we were pregnant. He did the scan, and then he pointed to this little dot on his screen, and he said, "You see, there's that dot. I can confirm you're pregnant." And I said to him, "What about that other dot there?" And he said to me, "Listen, Stefan, don't push your luck here, hey? All I can tell you is that you guys are pregnant." And, we went back at 8 weeks, and the confirmation came through. Two complete separate babies were forming inside her womb. And at 13 weeks, it got confirmed that it was a boy and a girl. And we were so lucky that everything went well, and we became the very happy, lucky parents of a boy, Mikkel, and a girl, Cara. Very, very prematurely born, and a lot of medical challenges, but not close to anybody else's, small little things compared. And that was the start. And 2 years later, we thought we were going to close the factory officially, and then we got surprised by in Afrikaans we call it a lammetjie. It's a late surprise, 5 years after the twins. And today I can actually share with you what my family look like. Let me just share my screen and show you what my family looks like. You can tell me if it comes up, Raynor.
Yes, yeah, I can see your beautiful
Okay.
family now.
So on the far right is my eldest daughter, Amore, her husband Diego, and we were blessed with two grandchildren, two granddaughters. So Amore on the far right and Talia on the far left with the other little miracle in her life. So this is Liam and Talia and their little Emery. She's 8 months, and Leva is turning, she's already 1 year and a couple of months old. This is Adele, my late son Valdu's teacher. And our twins is, this side is Mikkel with his girlfriend Emma, and Cara with his boyfriend Josh, and our late surprise Luan at the bottom. So that is our family that we were blessed with, and Raynor, to just close the story off, um, I am absolutely so blessed to be able to say that the dream that I had in terms of what I want to do and what I want to have in my life, I'm living every single day. And often people would consider a dream the perfect world. And one of the powerful lessons I've learned as part of this whole journey of mine, that even living my dream, the realities linked to living one's dream, is that life is not easy. We've worked through as a family through extremely difficult times, having to make an expanded family happy, a happy place, with daughters growing up in two homes with not necessarily the same set of values. Communication became even more important after I got divorced and married again than it was when we were married in my first marriage. It became more complicated and even more important. But starting my coaching business, which actually just found me as a result of everything that happened to me, and starting that journey was a whole lot more difficult than I thought it would be. And still, every single day, finding enough business to pay the bills, living my dream, is a huge challenge. Having children growing up, at some stage I had two married daughters, two teenagers, and a primary school child in my house. Now I've got a high school teenager, two young adults, and two married daughters with their families and grandchildren, all coming with its own challenges, be it financial, be it relational. A lot of risks and fears accompany this reality of losing again, of messing up again, of working through your own children's difficult marriages or challenges in their marriage. Life is not and will never be easy, but it can be fulfilling. It can be filled with light. And I'm so thankful in my heart, so grateful that my life is filled with a whole lot more joy than challenges. A whole lot of challenges, but having people around me caring about me and caring about us and helping us through these difficult times is so rewarding. And there will always be more reasons to go on and reasons to give up. There will always be more um, positives in life. It all depends on what we focus on. And I thought of reading this quote by Calvin Coolidge, which is such a powerful quote that speaks about challenges in our lives. And if you can allow me, he was the 30th US president between 1872 and 1933. And he said, nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. So if I can just summarize this to say, learn to focus on the solution, learn to focus on finding solutions, learn to focus on the positives, be grateful for what you have, and work hard and press on, and your life will be full of a whole lot more light and joy than darkness and problems. That would be the summary of my story, Raynor.
Stefan, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think um, I have so much respect and admiration for you. Thank you so much for sharing that next part of the story, which I think is just as important as the first part, because it's for many people that's where we fall short. That's the obstacle that's a bit too hard to overcome, and so we don't get to see the benefit of overcoming it and getting to the other side, as you have, like you've shown us that beautiful picture of your family, That wouldn't have been possible if you weren't willing and able. And yes, you had the help, and I think, and there might be some people that might not have the help there for them. They might have to go out looking for the help. Doesn't mean the
Exactly.
help
Yeah.
won't ever be there. You can always find it. It's you. You have that power within you. Um, I think the moral and the principle is that no matter what, no matter, you might be in the darkest abyss, but you can always find your way back to the light. There's always that process to go back to it. And yes, as you said, there's the hardships of that, and there's moments of light, and there's moments of darkness in that pursuit of you, as you said, your dream. But I think it's those hard times that help us to enjoy the good times as
Absolutely.
well, because it
Absolutely.
makes us
Yeah.
appreciate and cherish
Yeah.
them a
Yeah.
lot more. Because
Yeah.
without that contrast, there would be nothing to compare it to. If life was
Yeah.
just, a bed of roses, then we wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
And it really helps us grasp the magnitude of just how wonderful those beautiful moments are.
Yeah.
So there's always a purpose to those challenges. And I know when we're in those challenges, we don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And we question them and we doubt them and we get demotivated and disheartened. It's part of it. But we got to get back up again and again and again. Be resilient, as the quote you shared from Calvin Coolidge. Just get back up, keep pushing, never give up, and you will find that success. You will find that dream. You'll find those beautiful moments again. Um,
Absolutely.
so thank you so much for sharing that with us. If there's anyone that can speak of this, it's definitely you, because you've been through it. You're a personal testimony of the fact. I've enjoyed listening to you. As I said, you're someone that I respect and admire so much. So thank you for being with us and giving us of your time. And hopefully we'll be able to have another chat sometime in the future again as well.
I would love to. I would love to. Thank you so much for the privilege, Raynor. It was really an honor.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. And to all of you who listened today, thank you so much for joining us. If you like what you've heard and listened to, what we've discussed, please like, share, comment on this podcast on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts on. Share it with your friends. I know that there's someone out there that can benefit from Stefan's story and from his example. Share that with them. Be that ray of hope and of light to your friends around you that might need it. But again, until our next podcast, thank you so much, everyone. Remember, never give up. Keep pushing forward. Be resilient and enjoy those beautiful moments. Until next time, take care.